Hi there, welcome to breaking news in the Noah Presgrove case. Another news article has recently come out in regard to Noah Presgrove's lawyers, attorneys speaking out on behalf of this wrongful death lawsuit. Join me today as I share with you the details and the quotes that come from the people's mouths and see what they think about it, whether they agree with it all, and check for any additional new information, see if there's any inconsistencies. This is video 1 of 2 today. Thought I'd break it down bit by bit so it's easier and clearer to follow. As a heads up, later on tonight, same time as usual, live premiere at 9:15 to 9:20 p.m. UK time. We will be focusing on the People article, which was known in the past to do some interesting coverage from Jack Newton's point of view to Noah Presgrove's family, Dale and Presgrove. Well, either family members from different areas and walks, including Caleb, have spoken out in regard to the wrongful death lawsuit, and some of what's said is very shocking. So be on the lookout for that later. In the meantime, though, let's just focus in with this particular article with people in the key professional roles and what they think of the situation alongside Noah Presgrove's family. See how much of a direct influence there has been, and if there's any additional other points, and I can add on at the end if need be. If you are interested in recent coverage on the case and for the full playlist available, if you've missed any videos, top right corner where the eye symbol is, click there and you will find it. If you want to leave a comment below, any questions, thoughts, be sure to drop it below and it will help with spreading awareness of the video. And if you want to support the channel, there is a PayPal link down below. Without further ado, let's begin. The page of the articles by KSWO. The title, Presgrove's Family Seeks Justice Through Civil Suit in Teen's Death, by Hayley Wilson and Kimar Noel. June 27, 2025, published at 1:01 AM BST. Now, that's British summertime. There was the same article which was posted day before. I don't know if there's a time difference of the same exact thing, but I thought I'd just use the latest one just in case it has been updated. Tonight, we're hearing from the attorneys representing the family of an 18-year-old who was found naked and deceased on the side of a highway. Oh, well, that's not good. I mean, it is corrected below that, but an 18-year-old. Noah Presgrove was not 18, he was 19. So why have they already got that incorrect when typed? That's not a good start. Jefferson County, Oklahoma. The forever 19-year-old Noah Presgrove was found dead on the side of Highway 81 in Jefferson County, near Terrell, in September 2023. But questions about that night have grown with time as criminal charges have not been filed. So why are they wording it as questions about that night? The night of Noah's death. Upon retrospectively speaking and specifically speaking, it was not the night, it was morning time. It was Monday, September 4th. If you're talking about the night, that would mean Sunday night. That would mean the 3rd. For new viewers and people that come on in, they would probably get misunderstood by this. Use the terms correctly. It's not that difficult. And people will say, yeah, but people regarded it as this and night back then. Yeah, back then, in the moment, early. We're years on now. We're looking back retrospectively, historically. And when you look back historically and timeline based, you need specific times, dates, days. My goodness. Anyway. The family is taking matters into their own hands and seeking justice through a civil case. And here we go. Here's one of the attorneys. Evan Watson said, I think that answers are a big part of this, and nobody has seemed to have been able to give them any answers up to this point. So we're hoping to be able to do that at least. Well, that's one way of putting it. Other ways of putting it is, if anyone is tied in with the case, defendants as example named, they've not really spoken out and given the correct answers, what people supposedly want. But things have been said, and in the background during those private interviews, which we've never got the chance to hear of, who knows what was said, but maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe it was all coming across as very innocent. and not much was done or followed up on. So then family had to put their foot down and try and get other ways to then eventually push on through with said defendants being interviewed further, questioned in hopes of getting answers out. It all comes down to who really wants justice. Those that want justice will obviously communicate, cooperate, and do as much as they can and be clear and open. And those that are just simply innocent shouldn't have to worry, shouldn't have to hide anything. But we have come across so-called innocent people that have either hidden, lied, or been very inconsistent about things. And that is a major problem on top of everything else. Besides trying to get the answers and it being a big part, as attorney Evan Watson says, well, of course you need answers. That's the main thing to get stuff solved and moved on. It's the layers to the case, the complexity of the case, the numbers, the amounts of people tied in with the case, and then the stories, and then the conflicting stories. It's not just one layer, it's many. So even before you get to the answers, you got to sieve through the BS. You got to sieve through all the contrasting conflicts of stories, recollections, whether that's be done on purpose or by accident. And then maybe eventually you will reach the truth. Officials with Oklahoma Highway Patrol say they're still investigating the case, but not as a possible murder. But from the wrongful death lawsuit, it's been suggested as a possible murder, that or an accident. Not said with absolute certainty, but suggested. Then, attorney Austin Rabon says they have no control over what law enforcement decides to do. It's unfortunate. In quotes, I believe this is still Austin speaking. Our main focus is to get justice for Noah's family. We have a young man, Noah, who we believe was just terribly killed. And our job is to gather as much evidence as we can and to pursue this from a civil action, Rabon said. Now, if that turns into criminal, Evan and I both have young kids, and if this was our child, I know what I would want, and that would be seek justice from the criminal side as well. But right now, our focus is just in a civil action, and they owed a duty, and someone is liable for his death. Probably linking back, even if it's not outright murder, just simply linking back to the theme of alcohol, the distribution, the best friend that bought it from a store, but then the store that allowed it to happen when someone like Jack was underage as well. There's different routes it can go off from, but even if it's not being treated as murder right now and the police are doing their own thing, you can seek other channels to get the justice and still make some people pay, if that's what people truly believe in. Court documents in the civil case state that they believe one or more of the partygoers being sued beat Noah Presgrove to death. Interesting how it's specifically worded as partygoers being sued, as if that's the main and only thing, because there's a bit more to it. I guess, what was it, the total cost to some extent was like $75,000, but specifically a partygoer, how much would they be sued by? Not too sure. But it is kind of funny, the whole suing, because in a more informal, degenerative way, we've seen it in the community where the odd person was willing to sue me and to sue others. For what reason? And people on the army page actually look up and bow down to a individual known for suing and making threats. It really says a lot. Because on the sideline, a lot of people like to call out Brooke Bounds-Carter and say the evil, nasty piece of work, harassment, doxing, this and that. How funny. I've not experienced it. And I was on the light side as well for quite some time. And I did my analysis of Brooke Bounds-Carter at times, which could be in a negative light, just based on what was present, but then balancing it out afterwards. And yet, when I did it from one side over the other, was not attacked by the true darkness, but I've been attacked more by the light. I see more darkness in light than I do in the abyss. That speaks volume, and it says a lot about the human race as a majority. But beside that, let's lock back in to what's present here. Attorney Watson, who is one of several lawyers representing his family, says his loved ones have been seeking justice for 2 years now and filed the civil case before the 2-year statute of limitations for wrongful death action was reached. In quotes, "We anticipate with the evidence what we've gathered, and we're going to gather more evidence in the discovery process. That information will come out in the future that kind of paints the picture of what really happened that night. And that's ultimately what we're trying to figure out," Watson said. Interesting. So with the evidence that they have already gathered, what evidence is that? What? Noah mismatched shoes? Chain, piece of a necklace on the ground? Some loose teeth? The hat, the wallet, what about them? Noah's shoe, what about that? The golf clubs, the golf bag, what about them? What actual evidence has been gathered which would link in with this wrongful death lawsuit specifically? Any touch-based DNA to say, oh, Noah's body has been moved? Any blood, any footprints that were found near or on site at the property? I don't think so. The mention of gaining more evidence during the discovery, I believe that's when either sat down, talked to, spoken, interviews, formal, with all the different defendants, and then they've got to speak and supposedly tell the truth. But how many will? Will there be a pact? Will they all stick together and speak individually but still in sync? Time will tell. When I think of discovery process, discovery evidence, I believe it reminds me back to the Idaho 4 case with Brian Koberger when in court, when in trial, during the discovery phases, gathering as much evidence as possible so the team could work with it and asking and requesting for more later, but some of it being denied, I believe, or delayed. And then just working everything out in the background to build the case. I believe similarities there, at least the process. I've not looked at the Idaho 4 case for quite some time. Besides that, the information that will come out in the future, and it paints the picture of what really happened, sounds worded as if there's confidence that yes, we will get that evidence, and that additional evidence will show what exactly happened and will link in with the wrongful death lawsuit. So they sound rather confident there, but do they really have that evidence? Can they truly get that evidence out of those defendants if they're willing to speak? He says property owners have several liabilities, including keeping them free from harm whilst there. Property owners whilst there. What, Stevie Howard, Will Coxon? But they weren't living there in the moment physically or present at the party. Maybe, yeah, still links to the wrongful death lawsuit, the issues of owning the area, the land or the trailer nearby where the party took place, near to having possible knowledge of a party that was going to go down at the time or roundabout, and possible knowledge of alcohol and just letting it be and happen, linking back to them, the blame. But in terms of keeping people free from harm whilst there, what, whilst partygoers are there, there's only so much Stevie Howard, Will Coxon could do if they're from afar. If you're physically on site, you can monitor. You can watch who comes and goes and who drinks and who shouldn't. But if you're not physically there, what can you really do? But then let's link back to the parents of other party goers and guardians that were sat back elsewhere watching on Snapchat, social media of the party and clips and footage and thinking it's all fine and fun, possibly seeing alcohol too, and their kids present there, underage drinking. And did any of them take action? Most of them probably not. Why is that? Because it was fine, it was okay, no harm done. But then when the death news comes out of nowhere, now people take a stand. Just imagine if action was taken earlier. Maybe Noah would still be alive. Up to a certain point at least. And last but not least, we also think this liability is applicable to the people at this particular party that were providing alcohol to the minors and the underage folks. So we've got a wide range of responsible parties that we've alleged in this case. The case was filed in Stephens County because several of the parties reside there, and because Watson hopes this will be able to give them a fair and impartial jury. They hope to start and complete the discovery process this year. So no given month, but at least starting before the end of this year at least. Now, in terms of the people at the party were providing alcohol, that would link onto the host, and it does line out minors and underage folks. So when it comes to wording of those that are underage at the party, I'm guessing under the legal drinking age, but can still incorporate those of an adult age of 18 onwards, but under 21. Fine bracket. How many of the partygoers fall into the age bracket of 18 to 20? Was there anyone at the party that was 20 years old or 21? Because it seems like a certain proportion were 19. Now, in terms of the other piece of the article where it mentioned, and those that were minors, by definition, it could differ from country to country. I guess it tends to be associated with people that are under the age of 18. You turn 18, you become a young adult. If you're under 18, 17 or below, you'll be classified as a minor. So it adds another layer of vulnerability. It does make the case sound more shocking. But if you did like a comparison, in fairness, if you have a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old at a party and they're both drinking, it's regarded as underage drinking. It doesn't sound good. But if you worded it as you've got a person under age of legal drinking, but they're of an adult age, and a minor drinking too, it makes this one stand out more than the other. It makes this one sound much worse, and it completely overshadows everything else. A very small age difference, but the laws are laws and rules. But it depends how it's worded in a case. In the articles, are they doing it to try and make it sound even worse than what it already is? I wonder. And what's the age bracket? Who was the youngest person at that party? And you could say, does it really matter? You've got a 13, a 14, a 15-year-old underage drinking. That's just as bad as a 18, 19, 20-year-old drinking. No, because it's that layer of you got minors and then you've got adults. Adults that are not of the correct age to drink, but adults older and more developed mindset in different ways compared to outright minors. Minors versus adults sounds dodgy, doesn't it? So when you use those key words and associate it to a party with a bad event occurring, just doesn't sound good. I mean, what was the statistics to proportion of male to female at the party itself? And I use those terms because as much as the human race specifically and focused likes to call out males for referring to the opposite gender as females, that's regarded as disrespectful, that's regarded as hateful, and going down those routes with all those labels towards males. But the reality is, the basic bloody reality is, by gender, of course, but it's holistic, it's time efficient. If you say a woman, that's not going to incorporate people under the age of the adult, like a minor. A woman, adult age onwards. Child, teen, a girl, kind of different. Some people will use girl. I'm saying these terms all over the place. It's just like the party itself, this case where people refer to them as kids. They're not kids. Some and a few are adults, fully grown and whatnot, and others are just a bit under. Teenagers. Kids, you think of children. But it can come down to like the outlook of maybe the older somebody is, they may refer to them as kids because they just see them as much younger than themselves. Even if that other person is an adult and they are too an adult, but visually and age-wise there's a big difference. So you just refer to them as kids. So it's nothing that deep, right? But I use how I reference people. It's just done in a time-efficient way, so then it can incorporate all ages. You use a specific term, one gender or the other, and then it just highlights everyone in one go as a collection. So you've got adults, the odd few, because how many were 21 and over at the party to be able to drink. You had Avery Howard, also known as Avery Combs, that was 22, turning 22 at the time. How many other party goers from Friday to Monday that showed up were 21 and over? And besides just Avery being the host, were there any visitors, guest party goers that were 21 plus that should have known better themselves? Not in terms of what they drink, consume, but their surroundings of other people about. Because yes, you can blame the host for setting it up, the host for distributing alcohol. But if there were any other party goers that tagged along of the correct legal drinking age, and they knew of friends or others around them to some extent, did they safeguard? If they were present of that age, well then it looks like they did not. So they failed as well, but you don't get the blame that way, do you? So it does seem a little bit more concentrated and focused in some areas when there's other areas which could be talked about. But simple questions don't get any answers whatsoever, really. What percentage of people were minors at the party? How many were minors at the party? Breely, Georgia, Mikey, maybe Brylan, anyone else? Who was of the correct age, as in an adult but under the age of drinking? Caden Pressey, 19 or so. Jack, 19 or so. Noah, 19. Who else? Jasmine, maybe. Carter, Combs, maybe Stephanie, and so on. Logan Jernigan, possibly. I mean, when it comes to the Idaho 4 case, every time the victims' names are mentioned, it's got in brackets the age of them. Maybe sometimes with the age of Koberger too. But when it comes to the Noah Presgrove case, okay, defendants as example, the ages don't seem to be attached to them. It'd be nice just so you could work back by a couple of years to figure out how old were they at the time. You hear about Noah, 19 specifically, but as for the party goes, you don't really hear the age ranges mentioned. The only time when the age ranges are mentioned is when it comes to either Breely or Georgia, because they're deemed as minors, or supposedly were at the time 15, 16. Let's use these shock numbers and values. But if it is true, we'll definitely apply those numbers, those ages to their names in every sentence, specifically, emotionally, to persuade, to influence others, to really get at it and say, well, look at that age range. Look at those people that were present, and look at who else was present of an older age. Look at the possible dangers and how things could have gone. Hence why when it came to Georgia throwing up at the party and Caden took a photo to show to his mum Alicia, and Alicia was concerned of her niece, basically saying, well, make sure, Caden, nobody else takes photos, and make sure nobody does anything to her. And even at 10:30 p.m. when came on down on Sunday, and Caden was like, I'll take responsibility, I'll look out for her, make sure no guys do anything funny to her, anything bad. I believe that's what Caden said in his own words, roughly speaking. For Caden to say that, it would imply that Caden did not trust and did not have confidence in other partygoers that were there, friends, acquaintances, or strangers. Of course, Caden wasn't anticipating his cousin to come on down, of a vulnerable age as well, but still present. I think it was worded that, I don't know if it applies to Breely as well, but as for Georgia, snuck out the house, sneaking out unknown to the parents. What can the parents do? They're completely unaware, out of control of those situations. But then when you get other partygoer parents, guardians that knew where the partygoers were going, their kids, their children, whatever you want to refer them to as, and they participated in watching some of the snaps, well, did they take action? Supposedly not. You could question that too. But, you know, it would be good to be able to categorize different named partygoers in the certain age range categories. At the end of the day, you could just simplify and say, well, anyone at the party, under 21, shouldn't have been drinking. It's as simple as that. And anyone of 21 or over should have known better not to hand it out to people under that age to protect yourself so it doesn't fall back on you. You can put yourself first, even if it's considered as selfish. Put yourself first. Don't give others alcohol because it would impact your credibility. You could get in trouble. But, you know, in the moment, probably not going to be thinking that. And at the age range, feeling invincible. And on top of it, you're not anticipating a death of someone at the party. So it's like, well, if no one's going to die, does it really matter if anyone has alcohol? Reckless way of thinking can go wrong down the line. But in the moment, probably not going to be thinking. I probably asked some of these questions and raised these points before in the past, and it's still to this day no answers whatsoever, and that would probably apply elsewhere as well. But if there are ever any clear answers, crystal clear, if anyone has responses to it, you can always leave it below in the comment section. As I said, be on the lookout for the video later tonight where we're looking even further to the responses by key people and some that are tied up as defendants caught up within the wrongful death lawsuit. Take a look at their attitudes, what they have to say. Is it negative? Is it dark? Is it in line with the family or completely against? Some of it might actually shock you. So be on the lookout. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and share, and I'll see you later. Goodbye for now.